TA dash can
dot slash dot org.
yeah.
Capital R relay. Capital R E L A. Yep. Then I'll tell you this is
code at the time before that. Go back to which.
so prior relay. I'm sorry, prior reload.
Connection drop. Good question.
Yeah.
Is there a way that you're instead of doing it here and then
Yes.
Okay, that makes total sense. I figured that way we can cut down on noise. I think we can do it. I don't know how many people are sitting around.
Our audio guys bonded it, but he said you really need to have not just the recording, but all the other stuff you need. That's why he says headset.
Yeah, why don't we do something like that? It would make sense because you get a lot of interaction. So we'll do that. I'll catch up with you.
Thank you. I met Anne last night. We had a very nice conversation. I think it's great that they all come here and come with you.
All the spouses.
Yeah. How long have you been doing that for?
I think I can understand what President I think they've always done really jumped up. You need one of the president's wives to be a cheerleader. And who was president before? Anyway, it's like three presidents ago.
That kind of started that whole thing.
She sent out, we're going to take a tour here.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Hey, wife, do you want to come? Or spouse, do you want to come along? We got this tour in New York City.
I'd go.
So I'm going to sit down at the airport.
So John, when you get a chance, this is John Swan. We'd like you to set up the break. We'd like you to set up the break or recording so that you can do that. Second section. Yeah.
Only 15 minutes.
He's over in the next one.
If someone could break
I'll have a shirt for you later.
oh, you did break?
Okay, now this, so we changed the rooms a little bit. So the in porthole, the first porthole one, this porthole is over there, is going to be membership development. The second porthole one, I'll be doing a talk on future directions. Okay, that's at 9:45. Right now it's membership development there. This is Collabratec, and the next door is the corporate liaison program. We're going right into the training today, so just let you know.
John was They were quite interested. They thought they got a number of companies down there that were like died. So talking about
Folks, step back. I'm just handing out the box. Good morning, sir. Still doing some days. You'll be successful. Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. How are you this morning? I'm doing great, thank you. It's great to be here. I know, Paul Westwood. I know. Finally, first time.
oh, yeah, they're apologize for the weather.
Compared to New Jersey, it's just fine. Well, good. Come on in. There's some seats up front. If you're looking for seats, always seats up front. The best seat. Yeah. Plenty of seats down here. Plenty of seats down front, seats in the back. Well, good morning. It's great to be in San Diego, isn't it? Well, my name is John Day, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Justine Spack. And we're really, really excited about being here today because this event today really kicks off the first. It is the first of an orientation and training series on IEEE Collabratec with any region. And we'll go into the history about this in a little bit. So anytime there's a first, we welcome feedback on how well we do so we can refine it and when we go out to other regions. And certainly look forward to that. Especially what I'll count on this group to do is give me some feedback on the length of the presentation, the depth of the presentation, so that we can make those adjustments as we go out to other regions. So I'll ask your additional help with that being the first audience. Before I commence, I'd like to recognize one individual in the room, and that's Ron Jensen. Ron, just stand. Ron is the Vice Chair of Member Activities for MGA, and we're very pleased to have Ron today, not only as a Region 4 representative, but also in his capacity with MGA. So thank you, Ron, for attending. Okay, today's talk, and we'll try to move through this to get through as much as possible in the shortest period of time. Get my fingers here.
No. John, you should also say I'm a fan of Collabratec.
Okay.
I was waiting for that.
Well, that would look like it was staged, Ron, if I did that. Okay, so today's trainers, although I put trainer up there, but I'd like to say I'm more of a listener, and getting your feedback is vitally important, not only on the proposition of what Collabratec is, but also about the utility. I will say that on an ongoing basis, once you're in Collabratec and logged in, there is a feedback button that's persistent at the bottom of the application once you get in there. And we really encourage you, as you're using it and come across things, please hit that feedback button, and that will come back to the development team so that they can start coordinating and classifying different types of issues to assess critical mass. So, by way of introduction, my name is John Day, and I'm Director of Member Products and Programs at IEEE. And I'm joined by Justine Stack, who is a new addition to the IEEE community on staff as a community specialist. And part of that move with the staff is really to show how critical this is for the organization, because it's through a lot of research and experiences, false starts with other activities. We know that as an organization, in order to have successful communities, we have to have somebody who is shepherding them along to make them happen. So Justine's presence here is a reflection of the commitment that the organization has to this product. And she's also going to be a very important liaison to those in the room who would eventually like to launch a community on Collabratec. So we're very happy she could join us today. So today's outline, the board direction, how did we get here and why are we here? As well as, I'm going to give you a quick status update on where we are with the pilot. As some of you know, we launched a pilot in the middle of December. I'm going to give you a quick update on where we are, recognizing that that's a moving target with its status. I'm going to go through a few feature highlights of what's in Collabratec. I'll spend some extra time on communities, and then we actually have some hands-on. So for those who brought their laptop, you're welcome to dive right in. But for those who didn't, you're welcome to watch, and Justine will show you right within the application, pending the success of our internet connection, what the application looks like. So very quickly on the board direction. What is Collabratec? First and foremost, it's really IEEE is an enterprise foray into a professional network and a collaboration platform. In a nutshell, if you're asked by your section colleagues, that is the single bullet definition of what it is. It is an open network, and that's very important. IEEE Collabratec is open to non-members, and it's available to members. And that's critically important as we as an organization want to engage the public at large and those who may not have a membership status with the organization. Very important to know that right up front, that it is open. All that's needed is an IEEE web account. Now that being said, there will be exclusive features and visibility for members within the platform, but fundamentally it's open. The rationale for why the board went in this direction is looking at how it competitively positions the organization. And there are a couple of activities that were taking place that drove the board to this decision. And I would like to recognize Fred Finster in the back. And Fred, if you could stand up. Because Fred has been instrumental on the steering committee for IEEE Collabratec, reporting to the board to position this and why it's such an important initiative. Fred, along with a couple others, John Lucasetti, Dave Green, and MGA's Ralph Ford, MGA's VP. So that's important to know right up front. What's perhaps unique about this initiative is probably one of the very few in which there has been cross-board engagement and buy-in as an entire enterprise. And that doesn't happen very long. Some have been here longer than I can speak to that. But it really was a one IEEE effort to bring this together. The motivation around this, there were a few motivations, and they came from different directions within the IEEE. The one direction came from the membership side. We, as you know, look at member segmentation and satisfaction studies on a regular basis. One of the key reasons why members join the organization is for professional networking. That's why they join, that's why a lot of members stay. Sadly, however, while it's important to them, we collectively as an organization have been doing a mediocre job filling that role. So from a membership perspective, the motive was to close this gap between how the members are ranking why they're here and then improving on their satisfaction for what we have to offer. The other motivation was on the publishing side. If those who are in the publishing side and are following the publishing industry very carefully, you see there is a trend toward publishers who are starting to buy collaborative platforms such as Mendeley and other activities out there in the industry. Collaborative authoring is coming in more as a way of doing publishing. So the IEEE did not have that capability. So from the publishing side, it was important that we have a collaboration capability. When the board looked at what was happening, when it saw different parts of the OUs were moving in different directions to have a collaboration platform, the board said, let's step back. Rather than building 4 different collaboration platforms, one for membership, one for publishing, and then one for perhaps something else, they said, is there a way to put together an integrated solution that will minimally provide a people network, and then on top of that we could put applications that are specific to certain functions, publishing, professional networking. And so that was the direction the board took. They basically put some things on hold, brought the entire activities together, and said, how can we approach this holistically? So the objectives, quite right up front, the high-level objections was, how do we strengthen our connections with global community technology professionals, facilitate professional development and networking, remotely collaborate in a seamless way, access and manage the information they need in an efficient way, and accelerate research and publications with improved tools. So very high level, those are the goals that the steering committee set out. And although this is new, the platform is new in many ways, the truth of the matter is it builds on who we are as an organization. Sometimes, when we're doing our own activities, we don't realize how big the organization is and the amount of daily engagement that's taking place. But because the engagement is scattered or dispersed, sometimes it's hard to put the macro picture of what's happening. And what this reflects up right here is really the state of IEEE. As far as the global network with over 400,000 members, we have 300,000 former members on file, and this is a great opportunity as well to re-engage former members back into the IEEE family. Certainly society members. Under the communities, we have the societies, as well as sections and chapters, affinity groups, student branches. And as a publisher, we have several million users every month actually explore. So the purpose of this is to show there is no shortage of opportunity as far as people who are constantly hitting this organization. The challenge for us is, are we doing the best way in bringing these people together in a unique experience where they can not only engage the organization, but also create peer-to-peer networks with each other. So what that involved was sort of rethinking the paradigm of engagement with IEEE. The traditional view is we take an organization unit approach at IEEE. It's sort of an inside, internal view, where we bucket constituencies depending on how they're engaged with the organization, whether they're conference attendees, authors, Explore users, and we tend to bucket them like that. What Collabratec did is it really challenged that proposition Not that it isn't true, but could we rethink a user experience in such a way where we put the individual first and then see these various attributes as just different types of affinities with the organization? Recognizing that individuals change roles over time and that these types of affinities change. So how could we create a much more seamless, user-centric experience based on their affinities as attributes rather than their affinities as buckets? The other thing with Collabratec, what it gave us a great potential to do is recognize that the users can start driving growth of the platform. And you've seen this with other social and professional networks. So the individual users start inviting others into the opportunity and start connecting. And the accelerated way that can happen, we've all experienced. So that one individual comes in, they can start inviting other colleagues, not only within their profession, but also around the world. And secondly, start connecting with individuals who may not be members, but may be their fellow colleague who's employed with the organization. Again, Collabratec you do not need to be a member of IEEE to use Collabratec. So if you are a member, this is a low-risk way to engage your colleague, to introduce them into the organization by inviting them in and have them experience all that we enjoy. As far as the development progress, we are presently right here, first quarter 2015. But from a development progress standpoint at IEEE, this has moved at a very rapid pace. It doesn't seem like it, a year and a half. But considering the number of organization units at IEEE that had to be brought together at the high level, considering the different types of functionality that was being requested, and furthermore, considering the types of integrations that were being asked upon the team, where we attach the third-party services and make that part of the holistic experience, it was a very accelerated time frame. And we had great support across the organization, both at the volunteer and staff level. It would not have happened without that passion and that synergy to make it happen. So, long story short, we are here today, and as I started at the beginning, this is the first of the volunteer orientations. And you are seeing the capabilities as a small group. IEEE has not rolled this out globally yet, and we did not want to do that until first we had a sufficient feature set in there that we thought would be the experience that we wanted it to be. And secondly, we did not want to go out to our members and the public before our volunteer leadership knew what this was, so that they had an understanding of how it works and could convey that. So, I'm going to run through very quickly, where are we with the pilot as of today? The process of the pilot was to bring users into the experience and to get a cross-section of members and users from different parts of the world and different age brackets, so that we could have a very good population on which we could ask questions about their experience. I mean, throughout the entire development of Collabratec, we have had usability studies, people going in focus groups. And is there anybody here who participated in a focus group throughout the year? Anybody here? Okay. Well, I want to thank you, because throughout the year we asked different members and volunteers to come into Collabratec, give an assessment of where we were, and then took that feedback back to continue with the development. So the pilot phase is a little bit different. The pilot phase is where we're inviting in a much broader group of people to get more feedback on how well it's coming along. Recognizing, and we share this with those that we invite in, that the pilot is an incomplete product. But we had enough where we felt comfortable bringing in a larger base and then to get that feedback. And we didn't want to make some decisions until we got the feedback, so it's worked out very well. How we went about the pilot was we identified some communities, again, cross-section in the organization, so that we could provide examples of how to have a technical-based community, a geographic-based community, event-based persona. And once those were identified, then I actually, on the region side, went out to the region directors and I asked them, could you identify 2 cities in your region that might be willing to participate in the pilot? And actually one of those cities is sitting right over here, and I'd like to recognize the IEEE Chicago section for really stepping up. So if you please stand, I really thank you very much. Are there any other cities represented here in the pilot, other than Chicago? Well, not yet, but hopefully by the end of today, we'll have others who want to. But Chicago is very important because what we had to do was test the concept of a metropolitan community. And so, you know, when the invitation went out from the region directors, Chicago, among about a dozen others, raised their hand and said, sure, we'll give it a try. And then Justine immediately followed up with them with the process of getting them all set up and ready to go. So once those communities were identified, not only on the city side, but also on the technical side, and I know John Waltz with Future Directions was very helpful in the background to identify some possible technical communities that could help make that happen. And so we set up a sample set of technical communities. Our young professionals and student program offered up a couple areas, the actually extreme student competition, as well as the young professionals group. And then Women in Engineering will be coming very shortly, as well as a couple other local communities. So once we identified the communities, then we said, okay, we'll go out to these different geographic areas and make them aware of this pilot, make them aware of some of the communities that were available, and then we invited them in. And the purpose of that is when we invited them in, we wanted to make sure that there was something relevant for them. So that's why we took the approach of establish the community first, and then go out to the audience and invite them in. So very quickly, we're very new with the pilot, and this is so outdated as far as the uses. It's hard to believe, but as of January 19, we had in the order of 725 users, and I'm pleased to announce as of about 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon, we get 1,000th user in Collabratec, and it just so happened to be the President-elect Barry Shoup, who was the 1,000th user. He was just hanging around, you know, when it all happened. So we went over 1,000, and that's great because the more individuals that we get in there, it really helps us better understand the application. But the important thing is we are tracking this very closely. We do have goals as far as the quantities that we want to have, and then eventually the satisfaction metrics that we want to track. Very quickly, usage at a glance. Again, very small data, but what we're seeing is with 725 users, we've had about 1,500 invitations to connect. One of the features in Collabratec is not only communities, but the capability for individuals to start connecting with each other and creating their own networks. That's okay. As far as the launch communities and participation, again, as of 19 January, these are the communities that we have in there, along with their membership. As you can see, some of the more broad communities, such as the All Society Tech Forum and the Collabratec Pilot community, are much larger. They're broader in focus. But I can share with you, after watching the activity of the IEEE Extreme community, by next week's recording, they're going to be ranked right up here because they really took to the community and they've invited others in to participate. As far as the pilot user testing, what's working well, where are the areas of improvement, those are linked here. I won't read through them all. I will say, as far as areas for improvement, there's some image size issues that we have to work out. The first time setup screens has been identified as some areas where we can make that more efficient, as well as search options are unclear in a couple areas, and some of the icons in several areas in the platform are inconsistent. So this is some of the feedback that we've received, and that's now going into the development hopper for improvement. That being said, there's a lot that's working very well once individuals get in there. They like the experience, they like how it feels. The feedback link placement was tested very well, so again, I do want to bring that to your attention. If you're in there and do have feedback, that is a persistent link at the bottom, and I would encourage you to use it while you're in there. As far as the networking and career development side, what tested well, the people search, the personal profile, the communities page, tab services, and in that set area, so far we have an overall rating of 7.6. Where we as a team want to get to is we would not go out to a larger audience until we get 8.0 as a minimum. So we are making steady progress, and this was actually lower about a month ago, so we've been steadily improving as we're going along. Areas for improvement, the Q&A section, as well as some enhancements noted for profile and people search. As far as the Q&A section goes, we haven't even really built that yet, so it's shown there as coming soon. So obviously there's room for improvement. On the author research features, there are more areas here, and not surprising, because here IEEE is really pushing itself, especially in how it's doing integrations with third-party services. So some of those processes, those links to third-party services, even internally, this is blazing some new territory for the organization. But I'm very pleased to report we have a good team on it who's taking this feedback and continually trying to streamline that to make it the way our users want it to work. I'll run through quickly some feature highlights, at a glance, what you're going to see. If you have not seen it yet, there is a handout called Tools, and those are also PDF files. We just happen to print them out and put them together for this group here, but those are available online as well. Because there is so much in Collabratec, and because of the limits of time, I'm going to focus a lot of my time on the networking aspect. But what's very important to understand is within Collabratec, there are features that are available to everyone. There are some features that are for members, and then there will be distinction for volunteers. So we understand there's different audiences with different roles, and by virtue of that, different types of access points and recognition. Collabratec is really a user-defined experience. It begins with the end user. And that sign-in process that some of you have gone through already is where it starts. And the individual users define their interests. They determine which services they want to attach. And it's by virtue of that that their Collabratec experience is formed. So the only thing that Collabratec really does is provide them a platform where they can do this. But each user fundamentally has a different experience in Collabratec because they've configured it differently. Within Collabratec proper, we call it, that which the IEEE has built, there are communities, there are people in profile, there are activities and events, there's a library and research groups. Those capabilities are enhanced with the connections, connecting other services, and this example shows, for example, Google. If once people attach their Google account, it will enhance some of the capabilities within Collabratec on the author research side with document collaboration. And on the community side, it will attach a G+ community in addition to the community in Collabratec. So it's optional to attach services, but by attaching services, it makes the experience much more extensive and many more features. As well, on the author researcher side, the ability to connect other social networks, as well as publishing platforms such as Orchid and Zotero, will again make the extended experience much larger for the user. It was IEEE's position going into this that we did not run and rebuild stuff that was already out there. What we did want to do is build a way for people to start bringing that together and base around their interests. Profile management, this is where it starts. We're showing Dave Green here, who some of you may know from Alabama. And this is where it begins. Dave defines his interests, shows the communities that he has, and then by virtue of that, people can learn more about him. And by defining his interests, it gives them the ability to connect, find other people who share those interests and/or communities and events. So very quickly, the profile management is very vibrant. If you go into the profile, complete the profile, not only can you complete the information, but you also have visibility settings. So you can toggle and determine what information you want to be visible depending on the audience, whether it's other members, just your connections, all Collabratec users, or even the public. If you choose to make some public, then it will go out and be indexed by the search engines so that individuals can find you by way of Collabratec. But again, all of these settings are controlled by the individual user, so there's probably not going to be any 3 or 4 settings that are exactly alike. And just to cover that point, if you go into the privacy and profile settings, again, you'll see that you have different attributes of your profile and then a drop down, which will allow you to set those settings for whatever your comfort level is with different information. When you go to the Collabratec experience, you can go to the people section and you'll see just that. You'll see a listing of users who are already in there. And right from that standpoint, you can get a little bit of information about them. IEEE members will have the kite, the diamond kite associated with them to make them pop, stand out, differentiate them from non-members who are within the platform. It also denotes what section they may belong to as well as their other memberships. You have the ability to screen, and on your left you'll see this, some very powerful search faceting that will allow you to go in with the users and find them by multiple or singular criteria. Very easy to connect with other users. Once you go in and connect with users, then there's an option on the navigation called My Network. And for those that you have connected with, they just show up in your network. If others have extended an invitation to you, they're showed up under pending requests. And every user has the option to either connect or say not now, maybe later. It really is up to the user to control, who they want to connect with within the environment. The other thing too is within Collabratec there are messaging capabilities so that once you create a connection, you can launch communications right through them directly from the platform. Communities are one of the signature features within Collabratec. For sake of the pilot, we have about a dozen communities in there now, Chicago along with several others. And communities give the ability for individuals who have shared interests, either around technically or geographically based, to have their own space. Communities can be open. Right now, for example, the metropolitan communities, those are open to anyone. We recognize that our members travel, our members have relationships in many different towns, so we're really facilitating an open borders concept with the municipal communities within Collabratec. As of right now, we have one section and one community. But Collabratec does not preclude a section, like if you're a large section, let's take France for example. If you would like to have launch communities for different cities within your section, Collabratec certainly facilitates that. So even in the United States, we have some large sections with large territory. We may not always have the opportunity to have a physical meeting in a certain town, but what the Collabratec does offer is the ability that you could launch a community for that town to at least provide some presence, albeit perhaps a virtual, which will then stimulate an in-person. As noted before, Collabratec gives the individuals the ability to attach services, and you can do that right from the settings. Starting out, we have Google Drive, LinkedIn, as well as Twitter. And it's a matter of just going into the settings, determining what you want to attach it. You'll probably be prompted for certain permissions from that provider. You're given the provider permission to attach that to Collabratec. And on doing that, it has a couple different effects. First of all, it enhances the experience and the capability in Collabratec. But for example, if you attach a service such as LinkedIn, you will now start seeing your activity from LinkedIn in your Collabratec activity feed. So in that way, it serves as an aggregator function so that you can come to one location and start seeing your feeds from multiple social networks. And those feeds are appropriately noted. So if it comes from LinkedIn, there will be a little button there that says from LinkedIn, so you'll know where it comes from. This is an example of an activity stream. This is sort of the home page when you log into Collabratec. You'll see an activity page. You have filtering capability if you want to filter down the types of activities, whether they're events or activities of other connections. It's really up to the end user to determine how they'd like to look at that page. You also have the ability right from the activity page to share information out to other third-party social networks. So if you see something really interesting, maybe it's an event your section is putting on, right from here you can share that right out to another social network that you're connected to. So it gives really users the ability to not only engage directly with the feature set, but also to share what's happening within their section with a larger audience. So communities. Communities are critically important, but they're also an area where we've had a lot of interest across the board. So I'll run through quickly some of the communities. The pilot communities right now, we're looking at just having some variety in there, just to have different types of activities, technically oriented, geographically oriented, around certain affinity groups. And so we've put that together just to gauge the needs, how how different communities behave, recognizing that a technical community may behave differently than a geographic community. So the purpose of the pilot is just to get a feel for behavior for how these work. You, the volunteers, have played a critical role in helping making this happen. Again, the leadership started with reaching out to our volunteer leaders at the region level, at least on the region side, on the technical activity side. It was also out with the councils and the technical activity side to determine what are good examples of communities that should be represented. So that was the approach. We went out and then we established them, and then on the operations side, we also identified some key constituencies that had active programs such as IEEE Stream and Women in Engineering. So that's how what you're seeing now came about. When you look at a community, there's really two parts of community that are integrated together. There's certainly the Collabratec side and the features that come with that. But then there's the extended experience that's offered through G+. So in order to activate this extended experience, that does require the user to attach a Google account. And in so doing, not only can they benefit from the features of what Collabratec offers, they can instantly port over into the G+ community and have those features as well. So again, connecting G+ is optional. All it does is it just adds an extra feature set for those who want those features. But if you don't attach G+, there's a core set of community features within Collabratec. For those who haven't had a chance to get into a community, this is how it looks in the pilot phase right now. And again, what you're seeing here is that which is in Collabratec, and then the G+ extension, which allows you to pop out into a standard G+ community. So this is integrated together in such a way that it allows you to jump from one to another once you make that attachment. This screenshot shows an example of a G+ area, and for those who are familiar with G+, all that we did with Collabratec was basically put some branding on it, and then use the core feature set of G+. Again, this was an example of IEEE not wanting to rebuild feature set that already existed out in the marketplace. Our challenge was how do we just do a good job integrating it so that we can make it easy for the end user to go from one experience to another. As far as access and discovery, really, again, the community is a combined experience. And individuals come into Collabratec, and it's by virtue of them coming into Collabratec that they are then introduced to the G+ companion community. So these communities are not set to be discoverable out on Google, but they've been configured so that they're discoverable through Collabratec. So that's just on the technical side how we brought it together, that there's no way that one can get in here. There are a couple ways that we're addressing that now without first going into Collabratec first. And that way we can manage permission controls, who has access. But again, this is new area, this is new for IEEE. These types of integrations have not been done before. But with the direction of the board has asked us not to reinvent functionality that already exists. So again, it's back to us to figure out how do we make these integrations happen as best as we can. We touched on this before, so I won't spend any more time before, but again, users of the platform can drive its growth. So once users get in, they have the opportunity in the tool set to introduce others, their colleagues, and to invite them in. As far as the features and time frame for the community, at the pilot, early December, these were the features that we rolled out. During the pilot, in fact, we've already rolled some things out during the pilot, the tutorial overlay, incorporating user feedback prior to going to the large marketing push, and then looking at Q&A and file posting. These will be the next big features that you'll start seeing in the communities, and those are queuing up now for definition and development. As soon as they're ready, then we'll drop them out. We'll send a note out to all of our community participants or users, letting them know that they're there so that they can go in and use them and then give us feedback as far as how they're behaving. So that concludes the sort of an overview section, and I'll pause there momentarily, but Justine is going to run through some hands-on. For those that have laptops, you're welcome to boot up and participate in it. If you didn't bring your laptop, that's certainly okay. We have the screenshots, we'll walk you through it, and then certainly Justine is always available to offer some one-on-one help when that happens. So is there any questions to date of how we got here and why we're here? And yes, sir.
So it looks like you're using the API of other services to drive information. Does it work the other way around? Do you have an API where people can draw information from Collabratec?
Not yet. Not yet. Our first phase was basic. Well, let's put it this way. Collabratec calls on APIs that already exist within IEEE. So, for example, the events feed for the conferences, that's an existing API that can be called out. So really what Collabratec does is it really aggregates existing stuff within the IEEE. But Collabratec proper, does it have an API? Not yet in the development cycle. But if that's something, a feature that people would like to see, they think there'd be usability for that, and we certainly would want that in the feedback. Yes.
Oh, I was just going to add, as you were talking, I logged on and was trying stuff, and I noticed that the event that I wanted that wasn't posted yet. I don't know why. So I wondered if we stay here, if we could go to that. And I also noticed that the publications, when I clicked that on the menu, it didn't work right.
Okay.
So as we go through, we might.
So that's what the feedback form is for, and that's why we're here. So the specific event, we can take it offline, but if you'd let us know which specific event you were looking for, then we'll determine if it's a deficiency with a record not being where it's supposed to be in the database, or if it's a feed not coming in properly.
So you already are connected to the full database like a past members of IEEE. If we invite somebody who was a member 9 years ago, do you have is it your intention to connect to those so you understand that it's the same person?
What we have in our primary database, we still have the records, the former members. Right. So when it is our intent to eventually go out and introduce Collabratec to the former members. So that will point back to the record that we have on file. So we will know their membership status with the organization. So we've got a way to do that so we're not having duplicate records. But that's why we will use our core IEEE database to launch these campaigns, because that ensures it ties back to the unique record that we have on file.
But if we invite somebody, it may not connect. They may have a different email address, spell their name differently.
They may. However, when Collabratec goes in, when it recognizes the individuals, I'll take this back to the development team to find out whether or not it does identify, oh, by the way,
The address looks the same, is it the same?
Exactly.
Probably it's the same person.
It could be. I mean, depending if they moved or if they changed their email address.
I seem to remember earlier this weekend that one of the options or things that was going to happen was sort of a job listing or a job search. Is that planned?
It's on the roadmap. It's on the roadmap. We've got to get through getting the community features up and done. But eventually, yes, it is the intent in collaboration with the IEEE job site to start taking listings that's going into the job site. Not only there, but how can we expand that to provide listings, as well as the ability for recruiters to come in and take a look at users to say, we have top talent here at IEEE and opportunities.
Hey, I'm the publishing chair of the Diego section, and I know this is still a pilot program. Do you like us to promote this to our section members, or just learn about it?
I would say, at this point in time, here's my hedge on this. There's some features that we really want to have in there before we go broader. A lot of them are in the community space. I don't have any issue with us inviting others in, but we just have to manage expectations that it is a pilot. I don't want folks to come in with a false expectation that it's all there yet. So probably I would probably hedge more toward, keep it among your volunteer ranks to get in there and start using it. And that's critically important as well. I mean, have our volunteers get in there so they get comfortable with it, so that they become much more knowledgeable, so that when the members do ask questions, they'll have that first-hand experience.
So this training material also distributed to share.
Yes. Yes. If San Diego, we had a talk yesterday, if San Diego would launch a community, Justine will be right in contact and we'll get you on the path for that. There you go.
Can you give us an idea of what the competition is for Collabratec?
Right. The initial development of Collabratec was primarily some internal, and we brought on external contractors in the time frame that the board wanted it built. We basically had to compress the entire effort into a year, so external. As of right now, It's an internal development side on the front end Collabratec, and then certainly any connections with third parties are managed. Third parties are managed there. And that's quite candidly with a group. This is one of the challenges that we're having right now, is just managing to the amount of new features that are being requested and the bandwidth that we have on the development side. So this is why we're having to engage in some very sharp focus feature set launches to make sure that we get the core stuff done, as well as incorporating the user feedback before we start adding new things as we go along. Yes, sir.
If I want to be a user and I start questions, you have a help desk I can call?
We do. We have a comprehensive support, online support that is available with the contact center behind it, so that if there's an initial phase of just frequently asked questions, that is on the IEEE contact center page, and then if that's not sufficient, there is the IEEE contact center.
What hours do they work?
24 hours. We have a team. It depends on when you call. We have a team not only here, but we also have some staff team over in Singapore.
I gave you the suggestion of having an online chat, so they could consider the rather than calling, just having a window for chat and answer that question.
So, any other questions before we go? Sure.
Can you categorize your contacts and restrict the amount of access they have to your information?
Not yet. I mean, right now, basically, they're either my contacts, and this version 1.0, they're either contacts or they're not. As far as restricting, you restrict information on your profile. So basically, by the settings on your profile, you can designate whether you want some information only to show to your contacts, some would be all Collabratec. But to your point, we don't, in this stage of development, we don't have different classification of contacts, and this group can see this and that group can see this.
Is that something that's being considered? Or?
Certainly, it's on the feedback cycle. We'll just have to see if we get a critical mass of how many people want that.
If I set up a group of people to do a specific function, can I close that group by invitation only?
Within Collabratec, we have two things. We have the communities, the online communities, which are basically the configuration of those is whether they're going to be open or closed, and then the sponsor of that determines that.
So as a sponsor of one, I can close it and just have my 19 people in there?
Yes. However, that said, we have to first work out whether, like for example, this is the volunteer community, if that's what you're thinking.
Yeah, a conference group or a...
Okay. That will be done when we enable volunteer access and volunteer permissions control. Right now, it's open. It's on the roadmap to basically set it up that if I'm a volunteer, I can restrict based on volunteer affiliation who can gain access to it. But it's not there now, but it's on the roadmap for features.
Do you know where in the roadmap that is?
Probably closer to the end of the year.
What does success look like?
Success is defined by the drivers for why we're here. Certainly on the member satisfaction side, it's the objective to close the gap in member satisfaction. Importance is called out, the importance value, professional networking, and our delivery today has been rather mediocre. So on the membership side is the member satisfaction. On the publishing side is author satisfaction. IEEE's needs to satisfy its authors so they'll continue publishing with us. So those are the high-level strategic, and then certainly sponsor satisfaction. The advertising opportunities that we're creating within the platform to make that possible. So those are the high-level strategic, and then certainly there's the program and activity metrics that feed back to that. And once we get to a critical mass, then we will go out and actually survey those users on how well the platform is meeting that objective.
Does that look at large?
Not initially. Not initially. Whether it's through an ongoing paying them for feedback and satisfaction, platform satisfaction, we certainly could do it that way. But initially, we have some core constituencies that we need to attend to get the IEEE family at large happy.
What languages is this going to be available in?
The front end is, help me out here, Fred, I believe the front end is Java-based as far as the language.
So English versus...
Oh, I'm sorry, I think English to begin with. Certainly, once people get into the Google groups, they do have different language capabilities, but initially English, and then as we start seeing critical mass of need, then make determinations on language options.
Yeah, technical question. So, have you guys tested the performance of this when it's really heavily loaded and potentially have millions of users?
Yes, they've been performing regression testing on the back end, and I can't speak to it in detail. I'm not going to stay up here. But I do know the IT team has really been hitting it hard. I just don't have the exact levels, but it is intended, it is understood that there could possibly be millions of users, and that is the scale on which they are testing it on the back end. I just don't have the exact, what threshold they're using.
In event, which database you for the event?
Excuse me?
In event, which database you for the event?
Okay, events right now are pulling from two sources, vTools and ICX for the conferences. So to the extent that the information is being maintained and uploaded in vTools and ICX, it will then show in Collabratec. Now Daniel has found an issue where something is in vTools. Is it vTools or
No, it's
ICX? Okay, so we'll take that and find out why it's not showing, if it's a feed issue or if it's a content issue.
Has there been any interest outside of IEEE, ACM, or other organizations?
Probably not, because we haven't gotten out there yet.
Right.
There may be, but right now we're just trying to, again, we have core constituencies that we need to satisfy. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it is an open platform. There's nothing that stops, quite candidly, there's nothing that stops the International Botanist Association from coming in and creating profiles and connecting with each other from its open architecture standpoint. So it should be seen, but we just haven't, again, we haven't gone out trying to serve other professional societies, focusing on closing gaps with satisfaction with our existing group.
This exists or lives on a cloud platform, is it not?
Yes, it is.
So I think the scaling is at Amazon?
I believe so. Fred, do you know? Not sure. I believe it is Amazon.
So I think the response to the scaling, I mean, we can always scale up and from the infrastructure to meet a demand, right?
Yes, I mean, there is the back end that allows us, if we need that capacity, it will go up as we need it. Yes, sir.
So, I've had multiple Google accounts, LinkedIn accounts, bigger controls.
Yes, you would pick that. When you go into attach, it'll probably list all the ones that you have, and then you select which one you want to attach. Collabratec allows you to attach it, and then if you want to detach it, you can detach it, and then if you want to go back and connect it up.
Can you connect multiple?
Not at this time, no. You have to connect one at this time.
Good news, I'm getting invites just in these few minutes.
Yeah.
Wonderful, it works.
Well, there's other things that don't work, but I'll tell you later.
No, we need that. No, we do need that. Quite candidly, again, this is what the pilot phase is. This is what the pilot phase is about, and there may be things that are being worked on right now. Some of these may be identified issues. That's why I'm encouraging using the feedback tab.
That doesn't work either. Is that the one on the bottom?
Yes.
Okay. The good news, it's all there, right?
So please bring these attention to our issue. I do know I had an issue with the IEEE server this morning with another application, so there could be something happening on the IEEE
So
server.
it's not bad news. It's
No.
We got a skeleton here.
I have one question, and maybe I need to change my mind, but it's pulling in my speaker topic and not conference title
Okay.
into Collabratec.
Okay. So again, let's meet afterwards, and I'll take that down, and we'll take that back to the meeting. And again, this is part of the challenge with this type of platform is when you're trying to integrate with so many connection points so that it's user-centric. These are the types of issues we're going to bump into. We'll get there, but we're going to get through some of these integration challenges that we're having. Any other up until this point? Yes.
I'm just curious, if you have a limited group there, can you protect your documents or anything, like keeping a crypto or password protected if you felt it necessary to do that?
Well, from what perspective?
If you were working on like a project with people, you know, let them to.
Right. Well, the research groups within Collabratec are inherently by design for smaller groups of people. So there's limits on the number of people that can come in. As far as the settings go and the integrations with Google Docs, it would take on whatever privacy settings that you have for the Google Docs.
They're just thinking, for instance, you're working on a project, you're doing research, you have results, you're still analyzing, you know, and that information wouldn't necessarily want to share until you have summarized and are ready to publish.
Yeah, and really that's an individual decision. I mean, there's always the option of whether or not you even want to use it. If you're concerned about a risk of people seeing it, then you know you have to really ask yourself if you really want to even put it in there at this point in time. Yes. Metrics. Well, I'll come back to Diego's question. What is success? Success is at present, because of the participants involved, really three major strategic objectives. Member satisfaction around professional networking is one of the objectives. Author satisfaction from the publishing side, and then sponsor satisfaction from the advertising side. Those are the strategic objectives, and we can measure satisfaction by going out with surveys. Underneath that are program objectives. How many people are using the features within the platform? So users, page views, all the traditional performance metrics that measure what's going on the platform. And then beneath that, there are the transactional metrics, you know, how many technical interest people have signed up for this stuff. So there's layered metrics, but again, it goes into the direction of the strategic objectives. The platform objectives are the typical things that we see with online products. Well, we have, yes, we have as far as the number of participants and the engagement. Yes, and that again, that's more down on the transactional side. But we can track the number of participants in communities. We can certainly track, you know, the percentage of users who are in Collabratec compared to the numbers who are participating in communities. I mean, there's ways to track through the various Google tracking, the degree of use, you know, how many people are coming back to the same page. So those platform metrics are all in fact. Right.
In the communities, John, you know, the activities file and Q&A all say coming soon.
Yes.
When is soon?
Soon, it's our goal to have soon, probably being around the April to May time frame. Okay. We're looking at Q&A first, and then the file posting. Quite candidly, what we're wrestling with on the development side is taking care of the user feedback as it's coming in versus the new features that we kind of come out. So that's a challenge that we're working right now, is, you know, making the right call. So some of these features may go out further depending on how much user feedback comes in and the critical mass associated with it.
And then a related one, in the event which is enabled, for instance, the All Society Tech Forum lists 665 events. You know, probably 650 of them are things that I'm not really interested in. Is there a way to filter that out?
Probably from your activity feed. Primarily when you go into the activity feed, based on some of your interests, but there will be some filtering capabilities coming in the future that will allow us to drill down. Right now we need to get it all in there. Once we get it in there, then we can figure out how we slice and dice and make it more permeable.
Thanks.
How are we doing on time?
9 o'clock.
How long do we have?
You have another half hour.
Half hour, okay, great.
I'd just like to set at some point for either Region 4 or Region 6 people to talk about how Collabratec might be used in region from the region's perspective. Now, not your issue, put that out there.
Okay, I'm going to pass the floor over to Justine, and she's going to do some hands-on, just walk you through some key processes for how to establish your presence, as well as some of the key features. And again, if you don't have your laptop, don't worry about that. There'll be plenty of tutorials that will help get you started. Yes, and if you have one of these, you're actually able to access it. Actually, Collabratec.
I'm just going to stand by this microphone. So good morning, everyone. Thank you. If you haven't seen already, that is the URL where you can access IEEE Collabratec. And as John just mentioned, you can access it from a laptop. We are tablet responsive and we are mobile responsive. So if you have any of those devices, you can please access that at this time. Very nice. So first we're going to go through the sign-in process. I realize I see a lot of green buttons, which is good. A lot of people stopped by our table at some point this weekend and we walked them through the sign-in process, and then you earned your I'm Connected button. All that is required to access IEEE Collabratec is an IEEE web account. So membership is not required to use Collabratec. However, there are certain features and benefits of being an IEEE member when you're in the platform. So once you sign in, you should be able to click the sign in button. And the first screen that you'll see is basically that you're just agreeing to our terms of use. If you would like, you can click on the terms of use to read through them. You can also just agree. All of the sign-in screens during the sign-in process, they are optional. You don't have to do it directly while you're signing in. You can go back into your profile later and you can edit these options or you can add to them. So the first is creating your interest profile. One of the really unique features of IEEE Collabratec is that we have a tagging system that's done through interest. So by identifying some of your technical interest in your interest profile, you're going to get recommendations from the system. This includes recommendations of other people you may want to connect to, certain events you may want to attend, communities you want to join, and it'll also recommend research articles to you from IEEE Explorer. So you can start typing them in there, or you can click the next button to go to the next sign-in screen.
Is there any connectivity to your IEEE interest profile?
There's not, actually. That's the very good question. So when you sign in, we do pull all of your information from your IEEE account, such as your address, your email address. The interest profile is one of the things that does not get pulled. This is separate from that.
But by design, is it anticipated to do that in the future, or?
Right now with the interest profile, because we've had a lot of complaints about the IEEE interest profile. Okay, so the decision was taken was not to continue with a disaster, to rather start fresh and use a much more broader terminology and taxonomy set. What may eventually happen is we will probably start synchronizing them so that we can start normalizing around one taxonomy. This is an IEEE enterprise issue that the organization does not use one taxonomy for its events, for its people, and actually Collabratec is driving the issue that we need as an organization to try to settle on a common taxonomy that can be used across the organization. So right now, the interest is built here, and then we'll look on the back end of how we reconcile between what's in Collabratec and what's on the profile. But we've heard lots of feedback that please don't continue forcing us using this interest profile that doesn't match, and hence why we went in this direction.
Yeah, so like I told you yesterday, the taxonomy is really going the wrong way. It completely doesn't even work with our profession. I put in radio, and it didn't go to the radio on my phone, it went to somewhere else. So we've spent so much time in our interest groups getting the interest rate over time. I don't know what happened on that side before, but we clearly already know that those fields,
Okay.
metadata, that is really the better way than going out to some other database and using someone else which has very connection with.
Well, this is where we have to reconcile is which taxonomy is coming from where. And this is an enterprise issue because there's one technical activities has an interest group over here. The conferences is using a different taxonomy over here. So this is where we have to have a reconciliation. But what I want to do is to find out exactly where you're pulling yours from so that we can fold that back into the larger to make sure we're reconciling.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, if we don't say is that if we use the existing interest fields by data, we know those work. That's what we signed up to.
Okay. No, I have an interest in knowing exactly where that's coming from, if it's unique to a society or if it's unique to technical activities, because...
That's the institute anyway.
Okay.
That's an institute.
Okay. So what we'll find out is why that wasn't reflected in what's being used here, if it is in fact being used by the institute.
So one of the biggest annoyances of users for any product is having to enter the same information more than once. And it has the appearance of forcing us to do that.
Just on the technical interest side.
Yes.
It does.
So we thank you, and just, this is why we're here, is to get the feedback, and we'll take the list.
Then the next screen that you would see in the sign-up process is being able to attach a Google account. I do apologize. I know for some of the people we signed up last night, we were having connectivity issues with attaching Google+. It's been sent to our IT team, and they're looking into it. But what you would want to do here is you have the option to attach either your Google Apps at IEEE account or another Google account that you're already using if you have another personal account. And one of the benefits of this is that by having a Google account, you're going to be able to get an enhanced experience and use certain feature sets both within the authoring capability as well as within our communities. So if you're going through the sign-in now, I would recommend maybe going to the Not Now button, just because I know there were some technical issues last night with it. The last screen you'll see in the sign-up process is we show you some of the communities that have already launched on IEEE Collabratec. You have the option to directly access them during your sign-up process. You can also go back later to the community section and add them from the communities page. So initiating connections with region colleagues. I know some of you were already saying that you've gotten some connections now, and that's great. We really encourage you that since you're here and you're signing up, try to connect with some of the people here as well as others. So I'm going to really pull up my...
Is there a filter for region 4, region 6?
I don't believe there's no option to filter based on region. You can filter.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, basically the filtering corresponds with the way the world knows the world, and using cities and countries, and so that people usually know what city they live in. They may not necessarily know what region they live in. So the core architecture is to try to design this as the way the user would find each other.
I don't know all this, region 6-4. I don't know all of region 4 cities.
Well, that's right. That's right, and nor would our users. So, so we took the approach that the users can find each other by cities and countries.
So before I even get in, I apologize, I didn't mention, this is our primary navigation on the site. It is the menu button up here. So by clicking that, you can access all the different pages within the site. So when you see people, this is where you can search for people to connect with. Starting at the top, if you search someone by name, I'm going to search John Day. And John Day will appear. Now as you can see, I've already connected with him. So that's where you would be able to manage your connection. If for some reason I no longer want to be connected with John, I can remove the connection. And I can also message him directly.
Now one thing to notice here, because I have attached my Google account, you'll notice that you'll see the G+ icon will show on our profile. So you can right from here, if you want to follow me through the G+ experience, you can invoke and start setting up those parameters right from here. So that's one way to tell if someone is connected to G+. It will actually show up as an icon on their site. The other thing about the profile, you're not seeing it here, but you will eventually, it's in development right now, is it will show underneath the profile eventually the icons for different professional networks that these people already have an account on. So if I attached it, it would show up as highlighted, and one could go right from here right to my LinkedIn account. If I did not attach it, it would show there painted but not highlighted. Just to let the user know I'm also out here as well. It was just by virtue of me attaching it that it will hot link it and then take the individual to my LinkedIn profile.
Yes.
Is there a, can we create like a customizable URL for our profile that we can publish?
There is a default, there is a default link that comes. Whether or not it can be customizable, we'll have to find out on it. But there is a short link URL that is provided with each user. Whether it can be customizable, that'll have to go back and see.
Yes.
We can use Sammy to get members of our section. Is there some way we can import a list of people we can connect to, say, from our section?
We have to be careful there. And the reason why we have to be careful there, and we found this out during the launch, is we can't presume people. I'll share this with the group. When we first started out, we thought if we could load up into the system, minimally the member profiles, because we already have them, it would jumpstart the whole effort. However, due to privacy issues, especially in Europe, we have to be very careful in the organization just taking people's data and exposing it on Collabratec. Now that may not have been a question when we invite them to Collabratec, yes, but then them and each individually, they need to come in and set up their profile.
I guess what I'm saying is, can I get an email list from Sammy, say, yeah?
Oh, sure.
And then,
sure, but the invitation process, there's an invitation process, and Justine will walk you through that. Is you basically invite a colleague. I don't believe at this time we have a mass mailing routine, and there too, there's some sensitivities in watching. We've been watching some lawsuits with other social media providers who have enabled that capability, and users don't really appreciate it when their data is taken from someplace else and they're on the recipient list of a mass mailing. So there's just privacy sensitivities that we have to be mindful of when we do these types of activities.
Yes.
There is a list of interests, but we don't find anything of our interest.
Right now, you do not have the ability to add any interests that are not in there. We have recognized that is an issue, particularly some of our technical groups that are developing, such as our people with bio interests, people with entrepreneurship interests. We recognize it as an issue, and we're working to develop some kind of process where we can add additional interest or give the user the ability to add additional interest to select.
So we invite people to join. For example, if we have some interest there, we can invite other people
to join.
Like we do with LinkedIn. We invite people here.
Yes, you can. And I think there's a slide on that, right?
There's a slide. I can address it now since it's come up a couple of times. Right at the header of any of the pages, right next to your profile picture, you'll see a little person with a plus sign. By clicking on that, right now you have the ability to invite contacts via email. So you would need an email address. You can click email, enter any email that you're already in the system, and then click continue. There's a custom message that comes up. However, you can customize it as well. Hi John, please join me on this site. So you're able to directly invite colleagues that way. If for some reason you don't want to use the in-system platform, you can always email people the URL as well, and they'll appear on that first sign or the first page where they're eligible to either sign in or create the web account to sign in as well. Okay, so
When do you think we can add an interest? We know conference change anything, and then want to add a telephone number.
Okay, so we'll take that back as a suggestion for how to add interest to the larger resource. John?
I typed in IoT for Internet of Things, and it just came back with the box IoT. You type in Internet of Things, you get something entirely different. So what's your support for common acronym?
I'd have to take that back to the thesaurus, John. The folks who maintain the thesaurus
Stability question, just out and about. I'm using iOS. I've been just doing browsing and people. I've been kicked out 20 times since I've been and reset. So I can't get paid.
Are you on the Wi-Fi here, or are you using data?
This is not Wi-Fi.
It is on Wi-Fi?
Just have too many people playing right now.
I do apologize for that, and that's why I'm actually excited that even I'm on to be able to show you some of the things today, because I know some of you walked through the sign-in process with me last night. Sometimes it got a little rough, but so hopefully, what I'm showing you now is going to be enough that you can go back, and I encourage you when you go home to sign onto the site again, continue exploring it more. If you have the tip sheets, go through them. We also have more copies if you didn't, and continue to explore the system on your own. To get back to connecting with people, so when you are on the People tab, when you see someone who you might like to connect to, clicking the Connect button will send them an invitation. Then that person has the ability to accept the invitation or to not accept it. You can also message anyone directly from this platform. As you see here, these are some of the different ways that you can filter. So if you're looking for connections in a particular country, and then once you click on that country, for example, in USA, it gives you an additional level filter of state. We have companies, schools, member grade, IEEE affiliation, and interest as well, so you can find someone. So as you see there that so these are the steps we just walked through, how to connect with somebody. And now, once you go through that connection process, as John said earlier, there's another page on the site called My Network, where you're able to see all the people who are already in your network, who you've extended a connection to or have requested to connect with you. Okay. So once again, you would use that top navigation bar menu and go to My Network. Wow, I have a lot of pending requests. That's fantastic. I must get a lot from today. So thank you.
I just found out that if you click on the menu and then research groups, you can create a group.
Yes, you can. Yes,
so that might be useful when people want to create something for their conference related or research.
It is, and in the interest of time, because we did not have more time, we couldn't get into the whole research group capability. But there are private research groups where individuals can go in and establish a research group and for a limited number of individuals and participate, just in a close, small dialogue with them.
We already went through the invitation process, so I am going to skip that slide, and now I'm going to go to attaching services. Hello, I am Justine Speck, correct, Justine. It's my first name and then my my last name at IEEE.org. So Justine.Speck at IEEE.org. You can also connect with me on Collabratec and message me through the system. Great, thank you. So if you weren't watching, when you go to menu, you can go to settings, and this is where you'll see the attached services. The first one will appear is any storage services that you've connected, and as you can see, I've attached to my Google Drive, and I've also connected several of my social services, such as my Google+, my LinkedIn, and my Twitter. So those feeds appear in my activity stream on the home page of my profile. Then at the bottom, you'll see additional services that you can connect, as well as some of the services that are coming soon. If there's a service that you want to add, similarly to people, you click the Connect button, and you would click Add, and it would bring you to the process to do it. I do not have an Orchid account, so I currently can't connect that. But once you do, it will also appear in your Connected Services box. Clicking Manage is the way that you would be able to remove it. So for example, if you connect one Google account, but then you wish to connect another instead, you can easily remove it and then re-add it. Participating in a community. Scan menu, communities. This page is probably going to appear a little different to most of you because the first box is my communities. I am a member of every community on IEEE Collabratec. I realize that's not the experience most people will have. So the first is your communities that you've already joined. You can scroll through them and it shows you the name of the community, how many members are in it. Now, for most of you, you'll see, apologize, it's not, but then there's going to be communities beneath that, other boxes that'll show you communities you're eligible for. Most of our geo-based communities, and actually at this time all of them, they're open. So that means that anyone who has an IEEE Collabratec account is eligible to join that community. Right now, some of our topical communities are membership-based, so you need to participate in a certain IEEE society in order to have access to that community. So if you try to participate in it and you have that membership, it'll grant you access to it. If it doesn't, it will take you to IEEE.org where you can gain membership to that society if you're interested. To go inside the community, let's do Chicago. So this is all of our community landing pages. Gives you a little bit of detail about the community at the top, in case you're unfamiliar with the community and what it might be able to do. First is the events tab right now, where you can see events for our geo communities. It's based upon location. So these are events that are occurring in and around Chicago in this example. In some of our topical communities, it's based upon interests that are related to that society. We also have a participants tab where you can see all of the participants who are also participating in the community, and this is a really great networking opportunity where you can see people who maybe you were unaware of before and you can directly connect with them from the community page. The G+, this is where you are able to directly access the G+ community by clicking on the Access Now button. And maybe my internet's being a little slow, but once you connect your G+ account, you're able to easily go back and forth between the two. Oh, I apologize, I'm not signed into my Google account. But this is where right now, especially during our pilot phase, we have a lot of our discussion threads going. You're able to post videos, you're able to post links, as well as events. So if you have an event that is, not in ICX or in vTools, maybe you just have a webinar coming up later this week, very suddenly you can enter it on the Google page as well. Yes?
So if you're a member of society, you join a society community, and then your membership goes away, what happens to the data that you've entered, the chats or whatever information you provided in that community? Do you still have access to it?
As of right now, well, your access to the community is based on your membership status. So if your membership status is active, you can continue to go back to the community. If it's not active, no. I mean, one would have to renew in order to gain access to it.
But the comments that were put there stay there.
Yes.
Community creation right now is going through a process which mainly includes me. So I recommend either reaching out to me or I'll have a sign-up sheet available at the end of the session where if you have an interest in a community, we can go through the process of that. There's a couple of different requirements to have a community. One is you need an IEEE sponsor, such as a section or a council or some type of maybe conference even. And you also need moderators. Moderators are really key to get the community up and running. A volunteer maybe from your section is how we're doing a lot of the geo-based communities, and we encourage having multiple moderators because they're the people who are really going to help drive the growth and development of your community, both with initial content posting as well as reaching out to their connections to get people into the community initially. We purposely started out small with our communities. We have about 20 communities right now in the pilot just because we wanted to make sure that everything was working both from a technical and a strategic standpoint. So if you have an interest, you can connect with me and we can start walking through that process together.
I see there are lots of conferences, John. How did those conferences come?
The conferences are as a direct feed from the ICX, the IEEE ICX database, where all the IEEE conferences
So every.
The ICX, well, those conferences that are stored in ICX is what comes online.
I was wondering, a newsletter is able to create a group. I wasn't able to do that, or a research group. Also, I was wondering about a use case scenario. So, giving an example, like say developing a project or whatever.
Yeah, that's a perfect use case scenario. First of all, we need to find out why you couldn't create a research group, because that's open to everybody to do. But it might be a situation where you have a couple, one might be a professor with some students who are working on an assignment. One may be a couple research design engineers who are collaborating together on a certain project. There's different applications. Really the tool is agnostic to its use. The users are going to probably drive how that gets done. But I do want to come back and Dan, to make sure that you're able to create a research group.
I've tried several times.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you go back to the minutes for just a moment? If I see an event there and I see an error, how do I actually notify, what do I do to ask for correction of the organizer?
Is there a link to the organizer there?
There's a link to the website.
Well, if you're asking, would it be helpful if we had an actual contact with the organizers? Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
What is a moderator going to get denied?
At this time, there's no restriction from the moderator, that the moderator cannot restrict someone from coming into the community based upon the way that the system is currently set up, since the geo communities are open, so anyone can go in and access, and then any of the closed communities right now are based upon your IEEE memberships, which we pull from an IEEE account. So, and it's even, moderator is almost, sometimes I think, it almost sounds like a policing state where they're trying to, control something or restrict something. The moderators are more there to kind of with growth. That's their goal, is to grow the communities and develop them. There is the ability that, if maybe you have a rogue participant, that they would be able to contact us and we could go through the process of removing a person, but there's no restriction from the moderators at this point. And also, I work with the moderator, so it's not that once a moderator has control of a community that they have sole control of the community. There's also several staff administrators who kind of work with the moderators to make sure that everything is flowing appropriately.
What security features are there
Relative to, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, sir, we're having difficulty hearing you.
So can I use something like BGP for my exchanges in code?
That's beyond my kind of answer. I'll have to get back to you. We're coming up on, I just want to say, we're coming up on the 9:30 already. So I know we have to prepare for another group coming in.
I'll just leave this screen up for a little bit because I know several people were asking for email addresses. So if you do have any questions, feel free to jot these down.
I'm expecting to see a long list of suggestions for improvement. Who has all these long lists of suggestions?
I sent you a message.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any others? Now, I want to stop not as presenter now. I need to get your feedback on the scope and depth of this talk as far as an orientation to the platform. Is it too wide, too deep? We need to know, because we're going to go out to other regions, so we need your feedback.
The software when you log on is really something self-evident. It just doesn't all work, but it's self-evident, so that's pretty good.
Okay.
John, I apologize. John, can you step to the right a little bit? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I think in terms of an introduction, this is fine, but I wonder if there's going to be a commitment to find trainers who will come to regions, say a section meeting, and introduce this, and maybe have a seminar or something like that.
Let me say there's certainly a commitment to do webinars. That's certainly a commitment. our part. If, people would like to have a webinar, we'd be happy to put one on for another group of people. As far as the one-on-one visits, that's something we would have to work with the local volunteers.
I think that would be an administration or region or section or whatever. Okay.
Any other feedback on the scope and depth of the talk?
You're done though.
So I'm interested in getting the Alaska section going on this, so I just need to contact you and say, I've got your email address. We're spread out, so I think it could be a benefit. Right now I just send emails.